There is a particular kind of pain that visits you in the quiet hours, long after the argument has ended, long after the insult has been delivered, long after you have already replied. It is the pain of realizing you said too much. You reacted too fast. You let a stranger's careless words, a colleague's smirk, a rival's provocation reach into your chest and pull a string you didn't even know was still attached to you. And in that single unguarded moment, you handed them something you can never fully take back: control over how your day would feel, how your mind would spend its hours, how your peace would be spent. You lost, not because they were stronger, but because you were faster, faster to speak, faster to defend, faster to explode. This feeling is ancient. It has visited kings and slaves, generals and philosophers, and every ordinary person who has ever lain awake, replaying a moment they wish they could erase. And what is strange is this: the cure for it was discovered more than 2,000 years ago, not by a modern psychologist with a best-selling book, not by a motivational speaker on a stage, but by men who wore simple robes, who owned almost nothing, and who mastered themselves so completely that emperors sought their counsel and soldiers carried their words into battle. This philosophy is called Stoicism, and its central secret, the one lesson that separates the powerful from the desperate, is this: the moment you react quickly, you have already revealed your weakness. Silence, patience, and self-command are not signs of passivity. They are the architecture of true strength. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, emperor of Rome, commander of legions, ruler over millions, did not spend his private journal boasting about his power. He spent it reminding himself, again and again, not to be provoked. He wrote to himself in the dead of night, preparing his mind for the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful people he would meet the next day, so that when they came, and they always came, he would not be surprised into a reaction he would later regret. This is the first pillar of Stoic power, and it is called the dichotomy of control. It teaches that everything in existence falls into two categories: the things within your power and the things outside it. Your thoughts, your judgments, your responses, your discipline, these are yours. But the words of others, their opinions, their insults, their attempts to provoke you, these were never yours to control in the first place. The moment you understand this distinction, something extraordinary happens. You stop wasting your limited energy trying to control the uncontrollable, and you pour all of it instead into the only kingdom you have ever truly owned, your own mind. Think of a man standing at the edge of the sea. The waves crash against the rocks with tremendous force, relentless, indifferent, unstoppable. A foolish man tries to fight the ocean, to scream at it, to push back against every wave with his bare hands, and he exhausts himself within minutes, defeated by something that was never his to defeat. But a wise man stands on the rock, feels the spray against his face, and remains still. He does not fight the sea. He simply refuses to be moved by it. This is what the ancient Stoics practiced daily, not the elimination of provocation, but immunity to its power over them. And this immunity begins with something almost every modern person has forgotten how to do: staying silent. In a world that rewards instant reaction, the quick comeback, the viral response, the immediate defense of one's ego, silence has become mistaken for weakness. But the Stoics understood the opposite to be true. Epictetus, a man born into slavery who would later teach some of Rome's most powerful men, taught that if someone insults you, the true test of character is not how clever your response is, but whether you respond at all. He said that a man who has mastered himself does not rush to explain himself, does not chase validation, does not need the last word. Silence, to the Stoic, was not absence. It was strategy, it was strength. Every unnecessary word you speak is a piece of information you give away, a glimpse into your fears, your insecurities, your triggers. The wise remain quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that saying less protects what matters most: their inner peace and their long-term position. This leads naturally into the second pillar, one that modern culture has almost entirely abandoned: radical self-discipline. Not the shallow discipline of waking up early or drinking more water, though these matter, but the deeper discipline of mastering your impulses before they master you. Seneca, advisor to emperors and one of the wealthiest men in Rome, warned constantly against the tyranny of impulse. He observed that most people are not led by reason, but by whatever emotion strikes them first: anger, desire, fear, and that this makes them slaves in the truest sense, no matter how free they appear. True freedom, he argued, is the ability to feel an impulse rise within you, whether it is the urge to snap back at an insult or the craving for instant pleasure, and to pause long enough to choose your response rather than be dragged by it. This pause, this single breath between stimulus and reaction, is where all personal power lives. Everyone who has ever regretted an outburst has in that moment lost the pause. And everyone who has ever built a legacy of quiet strength has, in that moment, protected it. There is a reason history's most respected figures, the ones who commanded loyalty, not through fear but through presence, rarely explained themselves to critics. This is the third principle: immunity to criticism. The moment you begin shaping your actions around what others think of you, you have handed them the steering wheel of your life. The Stoics believed that praise and blame were equally dangerous distractions, because both pull your attention outward toward the opinions of people who often understand nothing about your circumstances, your intentions, or your character. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that the opinions of others say more about them than about him. He was ruler over an empire, yet he did not need the empire's approval to know who he was. This is perhaps the most liberating truth in all of Stoic philosophy. Your character is not up for public vote. It is built in private, tested in solitude, and revealed only when circumstances demand it, not performed for an audience hoping to be validated. And perhaps the deepest, most transformative teaching of all is this: the obstacles you fear, the hardships you resent, the suffering you wish had never come, these are not interruptions to your growth. They are the very material from which your strength is built. The Stoics called this amor fati, the love of fate, the radical acceptance, not just of what happens to you, but of the idea that what happens to you can become fuel for who you are becoming. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, that what stands in the way becomes the way. A blocked path is not the end of the journey. It is a redirection toward a different kind of strength. Every insult you do not react to, every impulse you master, every criticism you release without needing to defend yourself, becomes another layer of armor, forged not in comfort but in friction. So the next time you feel that familiar heat rising in your chest, the urge to reply instantly, to defend your name, to prove someone wrong, to react before you've even had time to think, pause. Remember that speed is not strength. The fastest reaction is almost always the weakest one, because it comes from impulse, not from character. The people history remembers, the ones whose names have outlived empires, were not the loudest in the room. They were the ones who could sit in silence while chaos surrounded them, who could absorb an insult without losing an ounce of their composure, who understood that their peace was too valuable to be handed to strangers. You do not need to control what people say about you. You do not need to win every argument, answer every provocation, or explain yourself to every critic. You only need to control one thing, the only thing you have ever truly owned, your own response. Master that, and you will discover something the ancients knew long before you were born. The calmest person in the room is never the weakest one. They are simply the one who has already won.